Science is such an incredible thing. It helps us solve the most challenging issues on Earth, or can be used to get us off the Earth. Science can be confusing, it's exciting, life-saving, and as of late has gotten very political. I'm your friendly neighborhood TV meteorologist. I'm very likely the one scientist you may welcome into your home daily. I'm the scientist you listen to for information without maybe really thinking about it. You may be screaming at me when I'm talking over The Bachelor or Survivor, but then really hyper-focused on what I'm saying when a tornado is heading towards your home. In this world of hyper-politicized science, distrust in the science puts people's lives at risk. Whether it's a vaccine for a deadly disease or a weather forecast, it's important information we all have a stake in. How many times have I heard the phrase, "I'll believe it when I see it," followed hours later by, "It hit without warning"? So a question I'm interested in addressing is, how do we try and restore trust in the science? How does my communication of meteorological science each day influence how viewers perceive scientific information and how I can help the public to embrace the science when it matters the most? Well, one way I establish a scientific dialogue with the viewers is through an area of science that I've always loved: space. When weather is quiet, I like to encourage people to just look up. How cool can science be by keeping an eye on the sky? I create both television and social media content about meteor showers, the International Space Station passing overhead, a lunar eclipse, or planets you might be able to see. I tell viewers when they can catch those SpaceX Starlink satellites overhead and those giant conga lines that sometimes freak people out if they don't really know what they're looking at. In 2017, during the total solar eclipse, the amount of interest gathered internationally was phenomenal. I used that spotlight to talk about projects NASA was working on and how the eclipse worked with the sun, the moon, and Earth all in our solar system. Weather and space are the perfect partners for the eclipse because people relied on my forecast to actually see it. That, by the way, was the most stressful forecast of my life, bar none. People traveled hours to my small little TV market in West Central Illinois and were watching me in hotels. It was just wild. Rockets are exciting. They're controlled explosions to space. They look cool, they sound cool, and they're just cool. In 2018, I used the launch of the Parker Solar Probe. That was, as an example, and an opportunity to talk more about the science of our sun. Many people think about flooding and tornadoes as big threats to life. What about solar flares? That's what keeps me up at night, and they're quite the threat to our modern way of life. Anyway, bringing awareness while just showing cool pictures and video, that gets eyeballs. So now to the weather. Some of our biggest successes with weather are during severe weather. Nothing really highlights the danger quite like showing the danger itself. Since I've been working at my station in eastern Iowa, we have aired several tornadoes live on TV for our viewers. We know from research people will take tornado warnings more seriously if they actually see the threat. What makes live video from scientists on the ground so paramount? Using sophisticated data and modeling we crazy storm-chasing meteorologists can do it safely, being in the right spot at what many would consider to be the wrong time. But as dramatic and eye-catching as live tornado-chasing video can be, tornadoes, they're not the most dangerous threat of weather. What do you think is? You might guess floods, fires, or lightning, but in fact, the most deadly weather in the US is extreme heat. So how do we raise awareness for something like dangerous heat conditions when it does not lend itself to dramatic live video? I'd argue that we need to lean into social media and explain the conditions that we're facing in a friendly, eye-catching way, something that people enjoy sharing across their own platforms, while they discuss and complain about the miserably hot day or impending snowstorm. Well, enter Stormy the storm-chasing corgi, my puppy. When severe weather is in the forecast, I use Stormy to get eyeballs on a social media post and also ensure that it contains critical information in the text portion like timing and impact. It's one thing to say we're about to get a foot of snow, and it's another, cuter and more shareable thing to display a Stormy scale, showing the impact of the snow up to his little nose. I also use my dog Stormy in public service announcements that are geared towards kids that include weather tips on what to do when severe weather hits and how to prepare your family with supplies in case of disaster or if you're traveling in a winter storm. We talk in schools and use these kid-focused PSAs because we know kids talk about this kind of stuff to their parents when they're back at home. Parents can learn things from their kids. All in all, I'm a big science nerd. I love weather, I love space, and I just want to share with everyone that will listen. So finally, I'm just a human. I'm not afraid to show emotion like excitement and happiness when cool weather things happen, and concern when severe weather is threatening my area. Connecting with my audience is so important. I don't just want to be the weather guy on TV wearing a suit. I want to be Nick Stewart, someone who they know and can trust with scientific information. So as climate change threatens Iowans and farmers, I hope they can trust me with just the facts. Flooding is becoming much more frequent and extreme as heavier rains hit, and I can show them the numbers. Data do not lie, and I hope I have built enough trust to break down and explain these very politicized topics with just the facts of the matter. I'm just a guy that loves science, loves the weather, and wants to help save the lives of anyone that will listen. Thank you.